What's going on, everyone? So Stephen A. Smith is known to say some kind of outlandish things and things that can kind of cause a bit of a stir. And he said something recently about JJ Redick, and I think it's a terrible take. Like, I just don't think it was something that was very thought through. But let's get into the take and then we'll break it down. So Stephen A. Smith said, JJ Redick has shoes to fill in terms of the Lakers' success this season, and compared him to Darvin Ham. So Darvin Ham took this team his rookie year as a head coach to the Western Conference Finals. Well, that's not true. One, are shoes to fill non-championship? Right? Like, I understand if he wants to compare him to, other Laker great coaches. I think it's a little premature as a rookie. But if you wanted to do that and be like, hey, JJ Redick, he has shoes to fill because Lakers are historically about championships, and you have all these great coaches, Pat Riley and Phil Jackson, and if you wanted to kind of go down the list and kind of use that as a reference point, then fine, maybe it's a little better argument than Darvin Ham, who in 2 seasons was awful in many ways. And look, I defended Darvin Ham a lot during his tenure. I didn't think he was a great coach, but I thought a lot of things that he was getting criticized for, and just the team itself at times was not great. And my biggest sort of defense was like, I don't care how good a coach is, if the players don't show up to play, at the end of the day, it's about effort. I mean, we've even seen lack of effort under JJ Redick, right? Like, you see games where guys show up and play the best version of basketball that they can play and really are committed. And I do think that they're more bought in and committed under JJ than they were Darvin Ham. But at the end of the day, it's up to the players. Like, coaches can only micromanage and control so much. So a coach can have you as well prepared, can have you do all these things. I mean, even Pop, right? Like, talent is also a big thing too. Like, what has Pop done in the last 10 years? We love Pop. One of, and if not the greatest coaches ever, going to go down in the history books, right? But we've seen him struggle these last few years, right? Because he just didn't have the talent. Guys like Eric Spoelstra has had bad years, right? Like, if you don't have the talent, then at the end of the day, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter, right? Pat Riley and Phil Jackson and guys like that, like, they had bad times, right? Like, it happens, right? You need the talent. You need the players that can properly execute. But the biggest thing that he says is this team. What is he talking about? Like, did he forget that? I mean, literally on screen with him, you have Luka on the screen. Did he, 1, forget about the Luka trade? 2, Dorian Finney-Smith's on this team. Like, this team is very different than the previous team. It's not even in the same ballpark as the previous team. Right? Like, so I don't understand this whole, Darvin Ham took this team to the conference finals. No, he didn't take this team to the conference finals. He took the previous team with D'Lo and these other guys to the conference finals. But are we just going to ignore matchups? Right, where you played a Grizzlies team that was just undersized and inexperienced and outmatched, and then played a Warriors team that, again, was undersized and outmatched, not due to their inexperience, but just because the Lakers' size was just a problem for them. You also had the emergence of Austin Reeves at the time. Right? Like, there's factors. You had, like, Austin Reeves wasn't on the scouting report. So he had free reign in most of those series. Right? Like, and then you got to the conference finals, and you got to a place in a team in Denver that you finally needed to coach in. Right? Darvin Ham didn't have to change anything. Right? And I talked about this very heavily during Darvin Ham's tenure. Right? Like, when he got to play in his box, he was fine. He actually looked like a very good coach. Whenever he didn't have to get out of his little box, Darvin Ham, I mean, he looked like, man, we can win an NBA championship. When he played Memphis, he didn't have to get out of his box. Give LeBron James and Anthony Davis the basketball, run all the actions through them, and trust that your 2 superstars will win the game. That's in a nutshell, essentially what the offense was. Now, he did run, 1 in, 4 out, and he had some play calling, some sets, but it was a lot of just like heavy dose. Even when they won the in-season tournament, it was a heavy dose of LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the block, right? Just everything flowing through them. Okay. And then you were able to get through the Grizzlies series without having to make any adjustments or any changes. Literally, they essentially ran through them. And then same thing with the Warriors, right? The one like change you could argue was going with Lonnie Walker in that big Lonnie Walker game, which, okay, give him credit for that. But then as soon as he went and got against a team that just could match LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and you couldn't just steady diet LeBron James and Anthony Davis, we got swept. I mean, ran through. I don't know if the Lakers win that first series with the Lakers and the Nuggets with JJ Redick. Just because, I mean, it just felt like that was the Nuggets' year, and they were just really good. But I am very confident in saying the Lakers don't get swept. I think Lakers win a couple games. I am incredibly confident that the Lakers win last year against the Nuggets. Lakers were up double digits every game going into the second half. And every game, literally, the same exact scenario happened. That is coaching. Right? Like, teams are up 20 all the time and stuff like that, and it happens. Right? Even the best teams, the best coaches in the league. The Boston Celtics last year were up 32 or something like that, and ended up losing the game. Right? Like, bad stretches happen, right? Teams, especially in today's NBA with the three-point shot and all that stuff, you can very quickly go from up 20 to down 1, right, on 7 shots. So there are factors and elements to it. But we don't lose every one of those games. I am very confident in that. Because the reason it's coaching is, again, the exact same situation happened in every single game that we lost. 4 out of those 5 games. Lakers had a lead, double digits, at times even into the fourth quarter, and lost all of them. Maybe JJ loses 1, sure, but he wins at least 3 of those. And it's a very different series. Or even if he wins 2 of those, Lakers are up 3-2. Right? So, again, that's a very different series. And there is no comparison. I mean, JJ has already proven he's a better coach. So, is it just strictly on, again, conference finals? Are we just going to ignore circumstances? Are we going to, ignore all these little nuances that go into it, matchups, things such as that? Right? So is, Greg Popovich not as good of a head coach as Darvin because he hasn't been to the conference finals in years, right? Is he not as good of a coach as, or is, Phil Jackson, because the Lakers lost in the first round with Dwight Howard, Steve Nash, and Kobe tore his Achilles, right? Does that mean that he's not, like, how far are we extending this? How where does this go to, right? Like, Darvin Ham, again, had his pros, right? If we're going to be fair, he had his pros. But he also had a lot of cons. And a big part of the issue was he only knew how to coach what he knows. Right? It's something I talked about as soon as we hired JJ. One of the things that I was really excited for when we landed JJ was Darvin Ham, again, when he could coach in his box. Well, what was that box? It was Mike Budenholzer. Why did Mike Budenholzer get fired? Because of a lot of the same reasons Darvin Ham got fired. Right? And again, same thing with Mike Budenholzer. Look at what is happening with Phoenix. Right? Part of that is just the lack of talent. Just perfect example, you can't throw just names on the back of the jersey. But part of it is just he doesn't know how to coach anything outside of what he knows. Right? And you don't see a lot of adjustments. You don't see a lot of changes from Budenholzer. And you saw the same stuff with Darvin Ham. He just doesn't know how to make adjustments game to game. It's a knock with Doc Rivers for years, right? Like, he just doesn't make in-game adjustments very well. We've seen JJ start with a game plan and literally 5 minutes into it, call a timeout and just completely throw out that game plan and go a different direction. We've seen that in regulars. You don't think he's going to do stuff like that in the playoffs? You don't think he's going to make changes, right? Like, don't get me wrong, there's things, is he a perfect coach? No. Does he have his flaws? Yes. Right? Like, the starting unit, for example, I disagree with. I think JJ needs to kind of flush that out better, right? Have better balance, but he might get there when we get to the playoffs. Now, you can kind of get away with it during the regular season. You want to keep guys high and happy, and then, you get into the playoffs, and it's like, okay, we got to work out the rotation, and then you can kind of justify, hey, love you. You've been doing great in the starting unit, but man, we'd be this matchup. This guy's better. Maybe you'll be the next matchup, right? Like, you can kind of talk guys into it, but at the end of the day, it's such a bad day to compare him to Darvin Ham. I just don't think that there's a comparison. I really don't. To say this team, like, we didn't just trade for a superstar. I know people are going to say, like, well, Lakers traded for D'Lo and Jared Vanderbilt and, Malik Beasley and guys like that. There's a very big difference, and I've talked about this very heavily, very, very big difference between integrating a new superstar and integrating role players, right? Why did Dorian Finney-Smith immediately become our, like, just perfect complementary fit? On top of that, he's been our best plus-minus guy since he came to the Lakers. Why is that? Because he's a role player. That is a veteran that understands his role, that knows his role. And it's like, hey, you know the role you've played and built a career on? You know that the way that you've played your entire career? Yeah. We need you to do that here. Everything you've done, basically everywhere you've gone, do the same thing here. But when you start adding in guys such as Luka, who is a superstar, everything changes. He's used to taking 30 shots a game. He's used to being on ball 90% of the time, right? Like any superstar, there's a learning curve, there's an adjustment period. But then you add in a guy like Luka, who is your point guard, who is responsible for being the engine of this team, who is usually accustomed to being the guy and the only guy, and now has to play alongside LeBron, who's used to being able to do and take and whatever he wants, different system, different scheme, different players, right? He's also one of the highest usage players in NBA history, little more so than even like prime LeBron. It's not even the same. It's not even in the same realm comparison wise. Like, JJ Redick has had so much more to deal with right now. Right? Like, I mean, just think of what he's had to go through in his first season. And I'm like, even off court, so like his house burning down, all kinds of stuff. Right? This poor guy. Like, this is something that he's going to be great. I'm not worried about JJ. But to pretend like, oh, it's because, like, stop. It's silly. It is. It's really silly to me. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel with your thoughts? Agree with me? Disagree with me? Mixed in the middle? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, either way, love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.